was down at the beach, and I'm so glad I came. I stayed in a hotel. They didn't have me a room, a place in their beautiful beach home on the water. I stayed here till late last night, went to a hotel, came back this morning. I think there are so many children here that I made a good choice. And it is wonderful, and we're going to have a great day today. So we'll be giving away prizes. We'll be drawing things. And if you're wondering where your question might stand in the mix, we took out most of the questions about beaver that we had in the bucket from last week, because I have my trusty smiley bucket with me right here. And then we put in all the new questions that I had gotten this week. I got home, ran those off, chopped them up, put them in different places. And then last night when we got here and did the pop-up, then there were a lot of questions this morning. They are on my cell phone. I'm going to just roll some of those and ask them later. When we give away the prizes, I'll draw from this bucket. I'll draw from a cell phone. We've got different places. So everybody who sent a question at one time or another, your name is in the box. There's a big box around here that has all the little, where's the big box? Tony, would you look for the big, oh, it's over there, that brown box over there.
I'll get it for you when you
so let's get things rolling, and I'll answer questions, stirring them up in the box, and I don't look. That's good, just that brown will work. Just when we get ready to draw for the books. Here is a question. And if you want to ask questions today, you can put them up on the Facebook page. Tony's sitting over there, and she will send to me over if there's a question that hadn't been asked, and then she gets in it. Got to pass Tony's test or whether she thinks it's something that's okay. Polly Boynes, Boyns. Don't send a man to the grocery store has always been my favorite story. How does your husband feel about being the subject of your jokes? P.S. My husband loves that story too. Well, Polly, left brain's got to be the number one sport in the whole world. He has always said, tell it, tell it, tell it. In all of our time of me doing these stories, he has said one time, I wish you wouldn't tell that. And so I have not told that story. But the rest of them, he said that he likes them. Interestingly enough, I usually try a story out in conversation many times, and then I think this thing is ready, and I'll try it out in a speech or a show. Remember that this is my 57th year with signed contracts. But for years, I just spoke at conventions, which was fine with me. I didn't think about theater shows. So I've done both now for the last 10 years. And so when the people say, come and they want to hear about left brain, I'm always working on a story. So some of you may know the story about don't ask a man to bring the luggage, because we had left brain taking the luggage. I won't hyperventilate telling you about it. Taking it to Honolulu. I had gone to Minnesota and spoken and was meeting him there. And he put the luggage, took the luggage out of the boxes because he was trying to save money, and wrapped our clothes all up in the books, hardback books that we were trying to get there because the client had called and wanted. It's a long story, and it's called Don't Ask a Man to Bring the Luggage. And so on that story, I finally said to him one time, well, you know what? That's about ready for me to tell. And we were speaking at the Man of the Year Boy Scout banquet in Alamance County, my home county. And when we were telling the story, I said, I'm going to tell that tonight. And he said, you've been telling it in conversation? I've been telling it in conversation. Everybody loves the story, honey. He said, well, try it out. And I tried it out. And people did not laugh. And the reason they didn't laugh, we figured out later, and we fixed that. The reason they didn't laugh is they were looking at Jerry, whom I called Left Brain, to get his approval for telling this story about him, which could make him look a little bit frugal, a little bit tight with his money. And we realized it, and we added it. If you've been to one of my shows or watched most of my videos, you will hear me say, I love this man. He's my best friend. I would never talk about him if he, because if it hurt his feelings. And once I tell the audience that, they relax. They know we love each other. And then from then on, when I put that in, the people absolutely loved that story. For a long time, it was number one of my stories that they were playing on Sirius XM. So you just have to, but Left Brain loves to have stories. And sometimes he will come in and say, I think I've just done something you can tell about in a story. And I know something good is going to happen. And of course, if you just watch him long enough, you will get some stories too. I love this man. He is my best friend. Of course, I will say, as a humorist, I might also say, I love this man. He is my best friend. I would never talk about him if it hurt his feelings, but he is not here. And that's okay with him too. Okay, good question there. And here's another question. Let's see. Margie Duval Gray, Poupon. Oh, your name is not. I got it. Margie Duval Gray, Poupon, please. I would just love to come to your house and lurk at the window where you live.
Please
while
don't.
I live or where I live. Okay, Margie, let me explain to you. Turn off your TV. Don't worry about the rest of the world. We live in Alamance County, North Carolina. We still love our police. We support our police. And if you come to my house and lurk at the window looking in while we live, we will call our police and they will come and get you and put you in jail. You can't look through people's windows, but I got your feeling. That's fine. Margie Duval, would you like some Grey Poupon? So that's a good story too. And that's a shorter story. As most of you know, I have a philosophy that if I take a few minutes to talk to people who others don't usually talk to, I can get material. And I do it by asking 3 questions. And we'll use the Grey Poupon story for an example. I get in a cab or an Uber or with transportation, or if they've sent some people to drive me over to where the convention is. And I start by saying, in that case, I would say, do you drive people around at your convention often? But most of the time it's a Uber driver now. And I will say, how long have you been driving Uber? And they tell me. Everybody will tell you how long. I mean, somebody will say 1 month, this is my first day. And you go, holy cow, 17 years, whatever it is. And then I wait a few minutes. And then I just casually say, boy, I bet you've seen some funny things driving people around. And this time it was actually in New Orleans. And the young man said he'd been driving a couple of years. He was a student at Tulane. He was making money on the side. His name was Stuart. And that's my second question. After I say, how long you been driving, I just casually say, oh, I bet you've seen some funny things that happen driving people around in New Orleans. And he'll say, they say, yes, ma'am, I really have. And at that point, sometime they will tell you a funny story that they think is funny. And a lot of times it is. So I'm just getting material. But then I wait a while for my third question. And I say, what's the funniest thing you've had happen driving people around? And then they tell me a story if they didn't tell it to me with the second question. And that's how I got the Grey Poupon story, because Stuart was driving me in a stretch limo, the kind that Stuart was 2 counties away, still driving in the front, and I'm in the back. I wish my friends in Graham, North Carolina could see me driving in that stretch limo. And when I asked him, I also wanted to be able to roll down my window and reach down in my purse and get something and put it outside and say, would you like some Grey Poupon, to the people looking in? So Google that commercial. It's called the Poupon commercial. And then from there we get the story. So I say, anytime you're with somebody that you don't sure that they want to talk to you, everybody wants to talk to people who talk to them. And if you let them do the talking, you'll find humor all the time. So that was, and this is Christine Perry, and that was another question. Christine, I just told them about you. This is the person that's been to 50-some shows. Did you ever know or work with Jerry Clower? Okay, let me explain to the people who aren't of a certain age and may not be from the South who Jerry Clower was. Jerry Clower was from Yazoo City, Mississippi, and he had coon dogs, and he was just a good old boy, but he was a smart, good old boy, and he could weave a story. People loved him. And he used to come out with vinyl radios with the Jerry Clower stories Patrick, your daddy remind me from time to time about Jerry Clower. I know. Oh, that's if you had to. So he was, and I wasn't on the same program with him because I would come in to speak, usually at agricultural groups, and he always wore bright yellow jackets or bright red jackets, and he was just a character. And I'd say, "Who'd you have speak yesterday or last year?" And they'd say, "We had Jerry Clower." I said, "Oh my gosh, he's one of my favorites." Well, apparently Jerry Clower was traveling around and he was saying the same thing. "Who'd you have? Who you got coming in?" Or you'd look at the convention program and there would be Jeanne Robertson. He didn't know who in the world. But over the course of years, I felt like I knew him. And then one day I was in the Atlanta airport and I saw him. He was standing there with his suitcase on the ground. A crowd of people had come around him, and I think I might have met him going out of a hotel when he was coming in. "Oh yes, hey, I wish I could hear you," this kind of thing. "I wish I could hear you too. I wish I could stay." And all of these people were talking to him. I stood on the edge of the crowd, and I saw him cut his eyes at me, and I knew there was a flicker of recognition, but he didn't know who I was. I could just tell. He just sort of knew, and his brow wrinkled up a little bit. And then after a while, the crowd began to trickle away. I heard him say, "I've got to get over to the other concourse." This was Atlanta. And as he left, he stepped over to where I was just sort of still on the peripheral. And he said, "Now we're supposed to," I said, "Mr. Clower, I'm Jeanne Robertson, excuse me, and I'm also a professional speaker. And we've crossed paths, but not." "Oh, Jeanne," he said, "of course I knew you." I knew he was faking. He said, "I knew you. I hears these things. I passed you, and I knew exactly who you were when you walked up to the edge of the crowd." And I said, "Well, I won't keep you. I'm flattered." I didn't believe him, but I was flattered. And I said, "I won't keep you because I heard you say you got to get to the other concourse, but how are you doing?" And he was much older at that point. And he said, "Oh, I'm so tired. I am just so tired. Did you see the crowd of people around? I can't go anywhere." And he's sitting there in this bright red jacket. And he said, "I can't go anywhere without people recognizing me. They always want to talk to me. And I always stop and talk to them, but it just wears me out." And I said, "Well, you better hustle and get to the concourse." He picked up his suitcase, and written on the side in letters this big were the words, "Jerry Clower." And the way he walked in his big red jacket, I loved him. So if you said, "Have I heard or met Jerry Clower?" the answer is yes. Well respected by a lot of people. You can still hear him sometimes places like Sirius XM. Now let's lay him sometime on there. All right, let me get another one. And this is Jean Marie Boucher. "I was wondering if you will ever do an audio version of your books. Your voice telling your stories would be awesome." Well, I appreciate that. I had no intentions of doing an audio version of the new book because in my mind, a lot of the stories are already on YouTube. And because of that, I thought, why would I then go back and read the book? But it has a lot of stories that aren't. And then the stories that I have told on YouTube maybe are a little longer. But y'all begin to write in and say to me, "My mother listens to books on tape all the time. Will you please do this?" Now, I'm not saying thousands of you wrote in, but it happened enough. So I brought it up to the Nashville people. And I said, "Well, I could read it. I think what they want to hear is my accent." And they're looking into it. And we said, "But my next question was interesting." I said, "But do I have to just read the book? What if I'm reading my own book, which I wrote every word of? What if I'm reading it and I start ad-libbing about a story?" He said, "I think that'd be great." So we are getting it all lined up, and it'll be a while, but we hope to get it on out as quickly as we can. And so thanks for asking, Jean Marie. And so if you have people that do listen to books on tape, wait, we'll have that. That kind of would be fun in my accent. Or I could get somebody from New Jersey to read it and just confuse the whole world. Yeah, I don't think it would work. I see you and Tony talking. Did you find a question? Did somebody write a question?
I'm throwing people's I can throw people's comments up on the screen. So I'm picking the good ones.
Fantastic.
If you say War Eagle, you go up on the screen.
Oh, I do. War Eagle.
If you want your name.
Okay.
So if you say I love Patrick, you go up on the screen.
Okay. Glenda Liebert, does Left Brain enjoy going to my shows? Oh, Left Brain loves to go to the shows. For years, he went to the shows. He was a funny person. Now his health is so bad that he cannot. We hope that would ever change back and he would be right back. But he wouldn't sit in the front. We filmed 3 tapes before we could talk him into coming, they're 9 complete DVDs, to the front to let the camera pick him up. I said, honey, people don't think there is a left brain. You're always in. He said, I don't want to sit in the front. And he always said at the last table at banquets, and I loved it because he would be sitting there with people and they just sort of met him and didn't know him. And then I would get up and start speaking and they begin to look at each other and think, is that? And then in the middle of the speech, they would turn over and say, are you left brain? And he would nod. The problem with him was this. He mouthed along. He knew my stories so well that sitting in the front, he mouths along and it gets on my nerves. And then if I left a word or 2 out, he would go like, oh no, you left something out. That really got on my nerves. So when he said he wanted to sit in the back, I said, that will be fine with me. So that was over and answered. Oh, this is my little smiley face thing. Look in here. Y'all tell me when you get a question. Okay. You mentioned that you play the ukulele. Why didn't you use that as your talent in the Miss America pageant?
Obviously, they didn't know you did.
Sandra, that's what I did. It was pitiful. It was just pitiful. I wanted to shoot the hook shots and they wouldn't let me to, but I knew 4 chords on the ukulele. 4 chords.
That's all you need.
That's all you need. Guitar player right here. That's all you need. And so I would play, and I wrote an original song that I thought was going to carry me, but it just didn't carry me. But what was so bad is at the Miss America pageant, I had done a humorous song in the Miss North Carolina and I won. And then the people that knew all about it changed me to a serious song. And see, I didn't do anything. But at the Miss America pageant, they wrote up in the paper that Miss North Carolina had done comedy. And I wasn't doing comedy. I was singing and playing the ukulele the best I could. And that ticked me off a little bit because I thought, what do they know? I don't know what I'm doing. Another question right here. And this is Judy Belt. Are your Robertsons any relation to the Phil Robertsons of the Duck Dynasty fame of West Monroe? Well, I wish so. These people have made millions of dollars. People all over have watched it. And I'm asked repeatedly if I'm part of the Duck Dynasty people. And I have to say no. And I'll tell you something else. Years ago, I had a convention speech in Las Vegas. And it was the auxiliary portion. There used to be spouses programs. There used to be wives programs. Now there are more spouses programs, but there were all women in here. And Pat Robertson, the minister, was the convention speaker. And the word got out that I was Pat Robertson's wife. They had Pat Robertson's wife was speaking to the women while he was speaking in the big convention. And I didn't figure this out till I got in there and people were telling me what a wonderful man he was. And I thought, Left Brain's a wonderful man. And I said, well, thank you. I think so too. We finally got it straightened out. People say, where do you get your material? So on we go, more questions. Y'all don't have any good question that's come across?
Do you have any pet peeves?
Do I have any pet peeves? Whoa.
We got all day, Jeannie.
I know. Before you get back to the beach. Okay, pet peeves. It depends on if you're talking about personally or business-wise. Personally, I just laugh. The nuttier somebody says or do things, we just try to turn it into a piece of material. Business-wise, should I tell them my biggest pet peeve?
Sure, why not?
Okay, I work very hard on my stories. And as you know, one story was A Mother's Revenge. 29 years it took me to get a punchline for that story. And I work on the baton story, and then I have all these funny lines that are all throughout it. And it's my product. It's what I market. And I tell meeting planners, I'll bring in material that I have written and that happened to me, and your people wouldn't have heard it. So sometime, once in a while, another professional speaker will take the story verbatim and tell it as though it happened to them. Then if I come in the next year and tell my own story, I've had meeting planners say to me, Jeannie, we had the same speech. We had that long baton story last year. And I'm thinking, okay, what do you do? So you might be able to see where that's a pet peeve for somebody whose business is to work. Of course, a lot of people think you just get up, walk out there, and then start thinking of things to say, but you really work. Would that irritate you, Patrick? Would that be a pet peeve of yours?
Well,
Patrick?
when I first started telling the baton story,
You had to wear a wig and a crown and everything. Yeah. All right, let's go on. J. Hope Hancock. Oh, when you write a new story, what's the process of getting it stage ready? Well, you get the kernel, and you got to have, every story has to have a strong ending, and then every story has to have, speech. You have to have a killer story at the end. So good, the baton story, the bungee jumping story. Now that I'm using a lot the magnetic personality to close this complete show. It means sit down now and don't say anything else. So you work on the stories individually. And I think I just told a few weeks ago, I try to go to every show or speech with a new story. And I have a place in the middle of the show or the speech that I drop that story. And then I always follow it up with a winner. But before I do that, I've tried it in conversation. And sometime we'll be leaving a dinner party and left brain will say, I think you've about got that story ready. You've told it the last 3 times we've eaten out. So he would be right. So there's a whole process. It would take an hour show to tell what I do to find my humor. So, all right, let's look at this one. Thanks for asking. I just love the craft of finding material. And I will tell you this, doing this Facebook Live, you've asked such good questions that sometimes I will just start telling a story. And when the Facebook Live is over, I'll say, well, why am I not telling that on the stage? So this has been good for me, as has been being on the Neil Steele radio show for an hour every week. Every week has to be new stories. So, okay. I just answered that one. I'll put it down.
Someone wants to know if you still have a basketball hoop at your house.
Do we still have matter of fact, we just had it cleaned and painted. We don't play a lot, but it just doesn't seem where I live. You just don't have a yard unless you've got a basketball goal at the end of your driveway. And our little boys don't come and play anymore, but they might pick it up over Christmas. And if they're 20 and 25, they might go out there and shoot a few. But
they're dunking now.
They're dunking it now, yeah. And left brain, they would always say, let's play horse. And if somebody comes with a younger child, left brain would always say, let me show you how to play horse. And he would go out there and teach them something. He taught every young person in our neighborhood how to play ping pong. He taught them basketball if they wanted.
He taught Robert how to dribble.
Taught Robert how to dribble, Robert Henry. I have a question, Deborah Seymour. And this one, if it's cut funny and on tiny, I cut this off when I got down here yesterday from the ones that from. Okay, Deborah Seymour, I have a question. You have a big house for 2 people. Have you ever thought of downsizing and moving someplace else? And where would that someplace else be? I'm not ready to downsize yet. We love our house. And it's not just a house. We've added on 6 times. The neighbors.
It's a neighborhood.
It's a neighborhood. It's 4 inches from where we cannot add on again. The neighbor said, if you add on again, you're going to have a walkway over to our house. But we've made it our location. I never wanted to pay for office space because then you'd have to go. That means I would come in from traveling all week and have to put on clothes and get not my bathrobe and go down, open it up, lights and so forth. And Tony's here with me. She's not going to go to an office every day. She runs that out of her house. So I had an office. Left Brain has an office. And now we have storage, we have shipping, we have all of this stuff. And we have taken our garage and made it into a game room. And now I know they're grown and all that. They don't come running in to try to get to the ping pong table or the pool table, but they might one day. Who knows? So I'm not ready. But this is the thing. I just spent the week flea marketing in Savannah, Georgia. And you got a question?
Off of that, a question.
Okay.
Audrey Smaltz wants to know if you all found any jewelry
Oh,
at
okay.
the flea market.
Okay, Aubrey Smalls from New York City. Okay, we were at Jane's, and this is a good point. A lot of people are downsizing in my age bracket. What this means is there's good stuff at the flea markets. There's good stuff at antique shops. I'm not sponsored, but we have 2 or 3 places in our county. Bella's. People downsize their house. They take great furniture over there, and young couples should check places like that out on consignment shops. So I was at Jane Tucker's. Norma Rose and I were at Jane Tucker's from Saturday until we left Thursday morning. The week before, Audrey Smaltz and Gail were down there from New York City. And I think y'all ought to move out of New York City and come on down there and spend your money and get a house, because it's much nicer right now. But we did find, Audrey, we bought stuff. And I met Audrey because, Audrey, we have a group for breakfast or just donuts and coffee at the National Speakers Association every summer called the Tall Women's PEG. PEG meaning Professional Emphasis Group. And you had to be over 6 feet tall to come. And you came several years, and we miss you. You need to come back. But yeah, we bought a bunch of junk down at Jane's. And of course, my car was completely bashed in. We had to handle that too. But thank you for asking. We're not ready to downsize yet. But when we do, I'll cry if I have to sell my house, because I spend so much time there. When I'm home, I don't go to an office. I just rerun it all out of there. Tony, we run a big business out of there, don't we? Tony?
We do. I'm sorry.
Thought she'd gone down to the beach.
Someone says New York City is still a great city. So.
It's a great city, but you know what? We can't find the place that the people that have been sewing, making my clothes, they're either at home or we haven't been able to find them yet to go back and try to give them some business, because they were great. But we that's why I went to Savannah. New York, I've been going 3 or 4 times a year, going to plays and everything. So let us know when to come back. I don't believe it's this week, but let us know when to come back. Okay, Marlene Warren. Did you see or hear any ghosts while in Savannah? They're very active down there. Okay, what she's referring to.
How would you know?
How you would know in Savannah.
Okay.
Because in Savannah, the book, Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil, I believe that was it, and the movie Lady Chablis, all of them, they give ghost tours in Savannah all the time. You know what? The next time, if Jane Tucker's watching, I think we need to do the ghost tour. There's got to be a story in doing the ghost tour. So thanks for asking. Savannah's a good place. Now I'm in trouble with the New York City people. Well,
sorry.
I have sure spent the money in New York City, because they have people who could make my size. Okay, what time do we have here? I don't have my clock. I have it home.
It's 12:30.
You get ready to do something, will you, Patrick, while I answer a few more here.
Well, here's a fun.
Any word on your Cincinnati show? Still shows live on your site and the other. Okay, here's the deal. Jeanne without an I, Jeanne, Robertson.com. Go in there and then punch shows open to the public. We change it every day. We're doing the best of people in Nashville, Almacree, who is managing all the shows that we book. They're working every single day. We're sort of at the mercy of when the theaters and when each state and each town opens up. Now, for example, in Savannah, you did not go out of your house without a mask on, or you couldn't have been in big trouble. But in other places, that's not the case. So it's the same with the theater business. So I would say, Carol, my gut tells me, didn't we change the Cincinnati?
It will be changed. It's just still showing its in August, and
It's not in August.
but we
We
don't
are
know.
looking
we
at the
know
date.
it'll be up.
Yeah. I think we were at Butler University when we did that.
Yeah, just say
But it's very, I mean, can you imagine just having from March and April changing those till August, and now from August changing them to November? Some people have changed them to next spring. In other words, people just don't know, and everybody's trying to be real friendly and nice about it and working their heads off. So I apologize for that.
okay, you're gonna need to tell a little more about your bashed-in car.
Oh,
Because
okay.
You said
Well,
enough
it was
that they want
terrible.
to know what happened.
Well,
You drag race, this is what happens.
this is
Try to
we
tell
were
you not
on
to drag race.
I-26 out of Columbia.
26.
I-26 rather out of Columbia. We went to Charlotte to Columbia. We're going to. This is the way you go to Charleston and Savannah from where we live in the middle of North Carolina. You go to Charlotte, and then we were coming into Orangeburg, and I had just said, Norm Rose, stop talking a minute. Stop talking a minute. I want to tell you something about Orangeburg. And I said, I spoke at the Orangeburg Chamber of Commerce years ago, and the executive director was Sonny Wilburn. She said, oh, are you serious? Because he left Orangeburg after a while and became the executive director in Alamance County, Burlington, where we live. So we know the Wilburns. And so we were talking about that. And then she said, uh-oh, that looks like a bad wreck up there. And it was. So no one was hurt, but this car had gone down the embankment. The tire blew and through. But it had happened before we got there because the ambulances were there, the fire trucks were there, everything. It was on the right side of the road. And then the police were going, get over. So our line was just creeping along. And I'm not real sure what happened. 3 cars up, somebody slammed on the brakes. And then the woman in front of me slammed on her brakes, and I think she might have hit him. And then I slammed on my brakes, and I hit her. And the entire front of this heavy, big car smashed. You couldn't get the hood up. No one was hurt. And of course, I want to say, where's left right? I need to call my husband. I can handle this. And you got to have the paperwork. And the highway patrol people in South Carolina were so nice. Of course, we made it easy. They just had to cross the street. Just had to walk away from that wreck and come over here. And I'm in the back. Nobody's hurt in our car or the other 2 cars. Or they weren't when we all left. But we didn't get charged with ticketed. We got a citation. What is it? Whichever was the least thing. You're not put in jail or anything, but we are now on I-26, 2 hours from Savannah on a busy Saturday afternoon. And so the policeman said, do you want us to call a tow truck? Well, do we tow back to North Carolina or tow on for a week of shopping? And so I said, well, I don't know. What would you suggest? And he went over and he smelled the car. Now, with children years ago, that could have been dangerous. So what a mess was in your car, food, banana peels. But he said, I don't think there's any oil dripping or anything. I don't think there's a problem. And I never heard. But he said, I think you're lucky. It didn't hit your wheels. But the whole trunk is you can't get in to see the motor. If you had to get in to see the motor, you couldn't do that because the metal of the car is up over the hood of the car. He said, I think I just drive it on to Savannah. And I said, you're kidding. He said, yes, I would. So we drove 2 more hours to Savannah, parked it, and then later went to a body shop in Atlanta. Met just Lamar's body shop. They couldn't have been nicer. He came out, and the first thing he did was smell the hood. Did y'all know about this? He's smelling for oil dripping, gas dripping, any fluid dripping. Nothing's under us in Jane's driveway or whatever. And he said, I know you didn't expect to hear this much of this story, but he said, I can fix this for you. It'd probably get the parts, get everything, leave it here, fly home, or rent a car and drive home. And I'll be glad to do that. But don't you have a good body shop where you live? And I said, a very good body shop. He said, I drive it home. That's 6 hours. And so on Thursday, we crept out of Savannah. And sure enough, we went the speed limit the whole way on the interstate. No problems. So we got very lucky. But now my neck's hurting. No, it's not. But it was just awful, y'all. I thought, oh, left brain can't help me. What am I going to do? Then I thought, Patrick's. Where's Patrick? But y'all were heading to the beach. What were you going to do? So does that answer that question? All right, I'm going to take a breather, kind of jostle my questions around. You get your guitar. Well, you're just picking up the guitar now. I'll answer this question right here. Evan Lucas, I would love to know the treasure you found in Savannah. I can do that, along with the types of things you collect other than beavers. All right. Okay, Patrick, you want to sing this song?
Sure.
Okay, you want my chair?
I'll take it.
I'm going to go over here and stare out at the ocean. No, this is one of my favorite songs. Hey, this reminds me of Saturday. I was caught in the middle. Go
That's
back
right.
to North Carolina, or do I go on?
Oh, well, I'm glad that we got to do this. We've been on vacation for last week, just having a great time. And so it's even better when Jeannie gets to join us. So I want to play you a song that I wrote a long time ago. I hadn't played this song much, but been thinking about it, having been playing with the kids so much this week. And so it's called Caught in the Middle. Standing on the bank of the river, 12 years old, my friends daring me to swim across. Took my clothes off, hit the water running. Halfway I knew I'd reached a point of no returning. I can still hear the sound of my friends laughing at me. They pulled me into the boat, buck naked, coughing and gasping for some air to breathe. I got caught in the middle and I couldn't get back. 15 years old, sitting in history class, wrestling with the boredom, felt the tap up on my back. Benji Mayfield passing me a note for Sarah, X's and O's all over his true love letter. I can still feel Mr. Baker's eyes burning through me. And I can still see Sarah smiling when I had to stand up before the whole class and read. I got caught in the middle and I couldn't get back. Ain't it funny how a means reaches an end? It's a road overrun with hills and turns. Outcomes turn out differently than when we first began. So strap in, go fast, and hold on through the turns. Yeah, 30 years old, me and Sarah married. Got a little girl, Caroline, we called her Carrie. Walking through the park, hand in hand with my two ladies. Man, life sure is good, no ifs and buts or maybes. I can still recall the day Sarah first smiled at me. Surrounded by my family, I now understand why being in the middle is the best place to be. I got caught in the middle, ain't never going back. Yeah, yeah, sweet Caroline. All right.
Yay!
Thank you.
You told me you were going to sing that song, but I didn't even think about it being in me in the highway. Do I go to Savannah and shop for the week? Or do I go back to North Carolina and head to the body shop? Okay, let's give away a book. What do you think? All right, I'm telling you what I'm going to do. Try to be fair to everybody. Okay, there's a message. After we did the little pop-up last night where you couldn't see anything behind me, no ocean, anything, we got a lot of your comments. So I have done all the comments. You know, when it gets down and it says to see more comments, punch here. I've punched and punched and punched. So all the comments are on my cell phone right now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to twirl it several times, and I'm going to put my hand down on a name, and that person's going to win a copy of the book. Okay? I mean, you got a better idea. We're ad-libbing here. So, all right, there's up and down, up and down. It's twirling and going back and forth, and stop. Okay? Laura Farmer. Makeup is forbidden at the beach. I was raised in Wrightsville with grandparents and cousins in Wilmington. I know this.
Is it Farmer?
Well, Laura Farmer, you have just won a copy of my new book, and there's very few left that have all the errors in it, and you got one. We'll send this to you, but you have to contact Tony. How's she going to contact you, Tony?
Well,
She just emails.
you can email or, yeah.
Okay. For those of you who don't know, the book came out about, 3 weeks ago, 4. We have not shipped books in the last week. Tony will be shipping on Monday. We told y'all she was going on vacation. And at the front of the book, we said, will y'all please check this book and edit it for us? Margaret Heisen has sent us the best thing. So now they are in the process of putting the book out. So now this has become a collector's edition. So Laura Farmer, will you let us know? Okay, and now, as long as we've done that, where'd that box go with all the other ones?
It's up here.
Okay, and I'll pick up these off the floor so y'all have a chance too in just a minute here. This is a high-tech show with lots of things. Give me the beautiful box. Okay, full of all these things, but everybody's going to get the chance. Okay, and then we'll do some more. All right. And the winner of another book is Cheryl Zebot.
How do you spell Cheryl?
Cheryl is CHERYL And she said, I wonder if there's ever been a time in your show travels you were expecting a particular type of experience, and then because of locations, it turned out differently. And she gets a book too. Cheryl, if you're watching today, we're going to give away some more in a little while. Then please let Tony know your address so you'll have a chance on that. Okay?
Cheryl's already bought a book.
Cheryl has bought a book because you remember that because of her last name?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Jeannie, make sure that you let people know that since we're planning so much stuff,
Oh gosh, that's right.
that they need to make sure that they hear about it. So
Okay.
I
Y'all
just
set that
posted
up this week.
JeannieLaughs.com.
Okay, we're planning so y'all is becoming a parent. I would love to be on the road more than anything and having y'all be in live audiences, although we just don't know what's doing. So we're trying to throw a lot of different things, the Audible book, which we haven't started yet, but we've got on Target and a bunch of other things. So this week you set it up from down here at the beach.
I've got it on the screen.
Okay. So if you want to know the latest of what we're doing and what we're having now, I may be in Destin, Florida at another beautiful beach next week because I have a convention and they swear and declare they're having their meeting in Destin. So, but that's not open to the public. So here's another question. And Tony, I have the last 2 DVDs over here too that we get. If Cheryl, this is a great idea. If Cheryl has already purchased a book, why doesn't she wait 3 weeks or whenever?
Well, or maybe, if she'd rather have a DVD.
If she'd rather have a DVD, Cheryl, let us know. Okay. This is from Mary Dawson. Oh, she asked me this one time and we threw it back in the box because I said, hold that thought, Patrick's going to sing. And then I forgot to go back. I have not heard Lee Greenwood's new version of God Bless the USA.
I have heard it, and he does not change it.
He doesn't, but he's got a big choir behind him and everything.
It's service people.
Okay.
It's a great tradition.
I just wanted to tell you that day, and I didn't get back to it. But I was speaking for Vietnam vets at Fort Hood. Isn't that the one? I get them all. In Kentucky, and they brought in busloads of vets. And the point was, this is a group of people that did not get recognized when they came back. So the city there in Clarksville, Tennessee, I'm having a blank because of a few speeches. But and the next day they were having a parade for military people and they were really honoring these vets. And these guys were not downers. These guys were upbeat, positive. Their spouses were with them. They were having a good time. But they were my age, around my age. And I said, who's your entertainer for tomorrow, like you would? And they said, well, Lee Greenwood is going to be here tomorrow night. Oh, my gosh. And they said, as a matter of fact, he may drop by tonight for your show. And I thought, oh, sure, because people are famous people or politicians or whatever. They'll drop by and say, hey, but then they're not going to stay for the whole show. They brought him in. He sat off stage the entire night. We chit-chatted. His wife had been Miss Tennessee in the Miss Tennessee USA. He was asking all about what I thought about pageants, and he was giving me, and the nicest person you've ever, and he stayed the whole show. And I was quite aware that he was off stage. The audience couldn't see him. So I was leaving town the next morning, and my next place to speak was in Memphis. And I was going to drive from there to Memphis. And I was driving out of town, and I saw in the distance the parade that the military people were having that morning. And I thought, wait a minute, what's another 35 or 40 minutes? I turned my car around and went back, got out and ran down. And of course, these were the people I'd spoken to the day before, say, hey, Jeannie, hey, Jeannie, hey, Jeannie. And then they came riding along, and Lee Greenwood said, hey, Jeannie, liked your show. And from the parade, I was so excited. But I just wanted to report to you in case you're interested. He's as nice a person in public as you think he probably is to be. And he recorded that song back in the early 90s. And it's just one of those things. So
every 4th of July, he becomes a millionaire again. He
becomes a millionaire again every 4th of July. But then I asked the Nashville people if they knew him because they live in Nashville. They said they see people like that in the grocery store all the time. I see Patrick once in a while. He sees me. That's about it.
Sure.
Okay. Well, don't let me forget anything else we're supposed to do today. Okay. What was your talent in the Miss America pageant? Well, we sort of covered that, but the person who asked it again was Janet Runyon Spearman. Thanks, Janet. I appreciate it. All right, here we go.
Someone says it was Fort Campbell and that they had their picture taken with you after the parade.
It was Fort Campbell. But see, I'm sorry because you go to a lot of different places and I got that confused. I did. All those people, that was a great time. Fort Campbell, I apologize for that. Okay. Your weekly chats could be a sitcom on TV. Linda Carter. I'm assuming you're not Wonder Woman. This is another Linda. I worked on a program with her one time. And your weekly chats could be a sitcom on TV. Linda, do you know anyone? Do you know anyone?
We're open to all offers.
I tried to get on Ellen, and I thought I got maybe a round or two pie, but it didn't help. But if you know somebody who can get me anything like that, let me know. It doesn't matter really. I'm having too much fun doing what I'm doing. Okay, you watch the clock.
It would be nice to get paid, though.
It would be nice to get, we're not quite making the money we were making before March. So no shows, no money. It's not everything because we saved, right, Patrick?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I fuss at Patrick. Vicky W. Boatwright. Have you ever been to Mayodan, North Carolina? Mayodan. I have.
It's right up the road. Yeah.
It's right, not far from where we are. Let me explain to you. The first year I started signing contracts to make speeches, I made over 500 public appearances. And most of the time I gave a speech, and they were all in North Carolina except about 10. And so I have been to the Benson Mule Festival. I have been to all of the great events in North Carolina, and I love my state. So, and of course I went to school in Auburn. I also love that state. That would be Alabama. Okay, here we go. Joanne Milano, did Jane Tucker pick out that outfit for you today? No, I'm at the beach. I did. If Jane Tucker walked in here right now, she would smile and say, Jeannie, couldn't you have put on earrings? But see, one of the reasons that we like to go to flea markets, I'm the one left in the world who doesn't have pierced ears. No. So we want clip-on earrings, and you can find some good ones in these antique malls. Jane Tucker's the one that said, stop buying beavers and go to the glass cases that have a lock on them and look in there. There'll be some good stuff in there. And she's probably right. Okay. All right. Oh, I read that. That's Christine Perry about seeing on Neil Steele. Verlaine McIlvaine Luter. Okay. It's Verlaine, Veralyn, McIlvaine Luter. Just purchased 5 tickets to your show in Auburn at the New Gouge Theater. I sure hope you get to come. Oh, and then she says, I just finished A Widow's Mite. That was written by my aunt. We're all overachievers.
Oh,
And enjoyed it so much. I could hardly put it down. Okay. She's from Auburn. Verlin, we hope that we'll be in Auburn, just like we hope we're going to be everywhere else. It's November. Tony, what is that day?
November 20th.
It's the day before the LSU game.
Yeah, let me look.
I'll be opening up. I'll be playing that one with you.
What? We
That's
don't
right.
know. Oh, I'm sorry. I did. I'm sorry, Patrick.
Don't worry. I'm here to remind you.
You're here to remind me that since Patrick grew up in Auburn and his mother and her whole church and other people who could buy tickets are in Auburn, he's going to open for me that night. He's going to do several of his songs. So that'll be great. We don't know. I know this. Oh, this is a good time for me to tell everybody something. Y'all listen up. If you buy your tickets for theater shows, this is not my shows. This is any shows from the theater or where they tell you, like Ticketmaster, go to Ticketmaster. If the shows get switched or postponed, you're in good shape. If you get them from any show, from an offshoot thing, we had people call me, a lady called, wasn't it, Tony? And she said, you're really funny, but I can't believe I paid $400 for your ticket. The tickets were on sale for $39, $29, something like that.
Yeah, the resellers.
Resellers.
Beware of
Second party,
Second
third party.
And third party for anything. It's like buying your football ticket outside on the sidewalk when it's a sellout, and then try to find that person again if those tickets are no good in a few minutes. So you just please be careful. The theater is not going to refund money to you that they never got. So that's you've got 5 tickets to the show in Auburn, and that's great. But I hope you got them at the theater or through their source, and it sounds like you did. You know the theater name and everything. So that's just a warning. Now tell me how much more time we have, and I got to give away.
5 more minutes.
Oh, just 5 more minutes.
Yeah,
5 more minutes till we go do what, Tony?
If you go give those DVDs away, you better.
I got to do it. Okay. All right. Why don't I give the DVDs away by pulling out, since the other names went away, this is the name. This time I'm going to pull out from this bucket and give away this DVD, an hour 52, called Rock and Humor. Wendy Kelly, my question, do you ever hear from any of the students that you taught during your school teaching career? I taught 9 years. I taught at Auburn a year, and then left Auburn and went to high school teaching in Selma, Alabama, taught at Judson College in Alabama, then taught the last years back in North Carolina at Shepherd Junior High. And I loved every day of teaching school, but I left it for something else. She just won a copy of Rock and Humor, okay? And I'm going to draw this time, because most of those tickets went into the other draw here, Tony. I'm going to select another one off of the people, the huge number of y'all posted. You have to all you have to do is post something and your name gets on back and forth, just to show you being honest, and then I'll just stop it. Molly Stevens will be tuning in. Last week in Blowing Rock, but next week back to Florida and 100 degrees. Okay, Molly, we're in the same boat and we just love it. But Molly Stevens, let us know how to send the book to you.
No, the DVD.
The DVD, and you're going to get Fabulously Funny, named after Jane Tucker.
And should they happen to already have the
If you got one, just tell Tony she gets it
But
all.
they need to email Tony@JeannieRobertson.com.
Okay. And now to answer one of your questions that I do not remember, they said, would I be appearing in my swimsuit? So the beach is calling, and for y'all to come and join in today, I'm sorry if we look discombobulated. We are a little discombobulated, but be heading back, and next week we have a surprise for you. I've had a contest called the Jeanne Robertson Humor Contest, had it 3 years. 2 years ago, it was won by Debbie Childers from, well, she grew up in Leeds, Alabama, but she's from Georgia somewhere. I can't ever get Ackworth, whatever it is. She's drop dead funny. I'll be playing through several of her clips this week so you can get a feel for her. A lot of you already know her. She and her husband Tim are going to drive up Friday night. We'll all go to dinner. And then on Saturday, she's going to do the program, and then they drive back to Georgia. Tim's a minister, so they got to get back for church. But Debbie is really funny, and you can check her out, and you're going to like her too. So, all right. And y'all have a great week. Keep laughing.